The ambush and capture. The void between Proxima Centauri and the Rigel system stretched like an infinite black canvas, punctuated only by the distant flicker of dying stars. Captain Kazor of the Cerulean Raiders adjusted his breathing apparatus, the bioluminescent markings along his scaled skin pulsing with anticipation. His six-fingered hand gripped the command console as the cloaking systems of his vessel, the Nightshade, hummed with barely contained energy. Human transport approaching Vector 9, Captain, reported his first officer Vex X, mandibles clicking with excitement. Preliminary scans indicate minimal defenses, easy prey. Kaiser's compound eyes narrowed, focusing on the holographic display. The human vessel appeared just as intelligence had suggested, a lumbering supply ship, one of many that ferried resources between Earth Alliance outposts. The Ceruleans have been raiding these transports for months, building their arsenal and reputation as the most feared pirates in the sector. All vessels in position? Kaiser asked, his voice a rasping hiss through his translator. Yes, Captain. The Fangclaw and Duskwraith are flanking at optimal intercept trajectories. Weapons primed. Kaiser felt a familiar surge of confidence. The humans, for all their technological advancement, were predictable. 3 Cerulean warships against 1 human transport. The outcome was certain. Execute attack pattern Sigma. Disable their engines first, then communications. I want their cargo intact. The Nightshade decloaked like a predator shedding its camouflage, plasma cannons already charging. The Cerulean ambush unfolded with precision. 3 warships appearing simultaneously from different vectors, immediately launching disruptor torpedoes toward the human vessel's engine section. The first volley struck true, electromagnetic pulses washing over the transport's hull. Kaiser expected the typical response: panic, desperate distress calls, perhaps futile attempts at evasive maneuvers. What happened instead froze his blood. The transport shed its outer hull like a discarded skin, revealing the sleek military vessel beneath. Point defense systems activated instantaneously, intercepting secondary torpedo volleys before they reached half the distance. It's a trap. Vex screamed, frantically attempting to reinitiate cloaking protocols. Too late. The human vessel's weapon ports opened, revealing advanced phase cannons that Cerulean intelligence had insisted were still in development, not yet deployed. The first salvo struck the Fangclaw, cutting through its shields as if they were atmospheric vapor. The ship detonated, fragments spinning into the void. Evasive maneuvers, Kazar ordered, panic edging into his voice for the first time in decades of piracy. Full power to shields. Where are their reinforcements? As if answering his question, space distorted around them as 3 Earth Alliance destroyers dropped out of hyperspace, their arrival perfectly timed and positioned. The Duskwraith attempted to flee, but precision fire from 2 destroyers severed its propulsion systems, leaving it adrift and defenseless. Captain, we are surrounded, his tactical officer reported unnecessarily. Shield integrity at 42% and falling. Kaiser's mind raced. How had the humans known? Their intelligence network had been compromised. Certainly, but this level of coordination suggested something far worse. The humans had been several steps ahead all along. The Nightshade shuddered as another volley struck their port side. Warning lights cascaded across the command deck. Systems failed in cascading sequence as power conduits overloaded. The acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. Weapons offline. Engines at critical failure, Vex reported, his usually confident voice now trembling. They're hailing us, Captain. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the human female in an Earth Alliance commander's uniform. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, highlighting sharp features and eyes that reflected no mercy. Cerulean vessel Nightshade. This is Commander Elena Vega of the Earth Alliance vessel Nemesis. Your ships have been neutralized. Power down remaining systems and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in immediate destruction. Kaiser's mandibles clicked in fury. You think the Cerulean raiders surrender, human? The woman's expression didn't change. I think you're intelligent enough to recognize when you're defeated, Captain Kaiser. Your reputation suggests pragmatism rather than suicidal heroics. The fact that she knew his name confirmed his worst fears about their intelligence breach. Kaiser surveyed his shattered bridge. Half his crew dead or wounded, systems failing. No escape possible. We will not resist, he finally hissed, the words tasting bitter. Within minutes, armored human soldiers poured through the Nightshade's airlocks. They moved with disciplined precision, securing the vessel deck by deck. Kaiser watched them with growing unease. These weren't the soft, fearful humans his species had been led to expect. These warriors moved with confidence born of superior training and technology. When Commander Vega herself stepped onto the bridge, Kaiser felt a chill that had nothing to do with the failing environmental systems. Up close, he could see the subtle augmentations that marked elite human soldiers, neural interface nodes at her temples, reinforced skeletal structure evident in her movements. Captain Kaiser, she said, approaching without apparent concern for her safety, your attacks on Alliance shipping have come to an end. Kill me and be done with it, Kaiser snarled. I won't beg for mercy from prey species. A flicker of amusement crossed Vega's face. Prey? Is that what you still think we are? She gestured to her soldiers, who efficiently secured Kaiser with restraints designed specifically for cerulean physiology, another disturbing indication of human preparedness. You're coming with us, Captain. There are questions that need answering. As they led him off his ship, Kaiser saw something that disturbed him more than the defeat. Human medics were treating wounded ceruleans, applying emergency care with thorough knowledge of his species' biology. One soldier was gently reassuring a terrified cerulean engineer, speaking phrases in their native tongue. These humans were not the technologically advanced but spiritually soft creatures that cerulean propaganda had portrayed. What Kaiser saw in their efficiency, their coordination, their unexpected knowledge of his kind, suggested something far more dangerous. On the human vessel, Kaiser observed everything with growing disquiet. The ship hummed with energy and purpose. Crew members moved with decisive efficiency. There was none of the chaos or emotional outbursts that cerulean military doctrine had taught were human weaknesses. In a secure medical bay, human doctors examined him thoroughly, treating injuries he hadn't even registered in the heat of battle. They spoke to each other in technical terms, discussing his physiology with disturbing familiarity. Later, in a detention cell designed with knowledge of cerulean comfort requirements, Kaiser finally confronted the realization that had been building. The humans hadn't just defeated his ambush. They had engineered the entire encounter, manipulating cerulean intelligence networks with surgical precision. Commander Vega visited him hours later, bringing nutrient supplements compatible with his biology. Why keep me alive? Kaiser demanded. I've raided your shipping lanes for 3 cycles. I've killed your people. Yes, you have, Vega acknowledged, her voice neutral. And you'll answer for that. But first, we need information. I'll tell you nothing. You already have, she replied. Your ship's data core was remarkably intact. We know who supplies you. We know who gives you targeting information. Kaiser felt a cold dread spreading through him. If the humans had traced the intelligence back to its source. The question is, Vega continued, studying him with those unsettlingly perceptive eyes, do you know who you've really been working for? Because I don't think you do. She left him with that disturbing thought, alone in a cell that demonstrated how thoroughly the humans understood his kind. As Kaiser settled into uneasy rest, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything he believed about humans, about this conflict, had been carefully constructed falsehood, and he feared what the dawning truth would reveal. Revelations and final words. The interrogation chamber aboard the Nemesis bore little resemblance to the torture facilities Kaiser had expected. Instead of implements of pain, there were only comfortable seating arrangements accommodating cerulean physiology and holographic displays. Commander Vega entered alone, carrying a data tablet. No guards accompanied her, a fact that Kaiser found more unsettling than if she'd brought a full security team. It spoke of absolute confidence. "Do you know why the Cerulean raiders have been so successful, Captain?" she asked without preamble, taking the seat across from him. Kaiser's bioluminescent markings pulsed with defiance. "Because we are superior warriors." "No," Vega replied matter-of-factly. "Because you were permitted to succeed. Every raid, every victory was carefully orchestrated." She activated a holographic display showing the movement patterns of Cerulean raids juxtaposed with Alliance fleet deployments. The pattern was unmistakable. Systematic gaps in human patrols exactly where and when the raiders would strike. "This isn't possible," Kaiser hissed, compound eyes fixed on the damning evidence. "Our intelligence network was compromised from the beginning." Vega finished for him. "Your intelligence came from hegemony sources, correct? The Silurian hegemony, the dominant power in this sector before humans had arrived from Earth, ancient, technologically advanced, and purportedly neutral in the growing tensions between expanding younger species. The hegemony has provided intelligence to many species," Kaiser said carefully, unwilling to confirm their direct involvement. Vega nodded. "They've been playing both sides, providing you with targets while simultaneously informing us of your movements. The question is why." She brought up another display showing resource transfer patterns. "Every ship you've raided was carrying materials the hegemony wanted diverted. You weren't building your pirate empire, Captain. You were serving as unwitting couriers." The revelation hit Kaiser like a physical blow. The Nightshade's cargo holds had often been emptied at hegemony border outposts before returning to Cerulean space, transactions he justified as necessary black market dealings. Lies, he managed, but without conviction. "The hegemony fears human expansion," Vega continued. "They've been using proxy conflicts to test our capabilities, our responses. You and your raiders were expendable pieces in their game." The evidence continued to unfold. Communications intercepts, resource trails, strategic analyses. With each revelation, Kaiser's certainty crumbled. The raids that had seemed like brilliant tactical victories had been allowed to succeed, feeding the Ceruleans false confidence while revealing their capabilities to human intelligence. "Why tell me this?" Kaiser finally asked, his voice subdued. "Why not simply execute me and be done with it?" "Because we want to send a message through you," Vega replied. "The hegemony's manipulations affect all younger species, including yours." Before she could elaborate, alarms blared throughout the ship. Vega's communication implant pulsed, and her expression hardened. "Cerulean vessels approaching. Heavy cruiser class." Kaiser's mandibles clicked in surprise. "Impossible. The Cerulean fleet has no cruisers." "No," Vega agreed grimly, "but the hegemony does." The ship shuddered as it absorbed the first salvos. Vega was already moving, issuing commands through her neural interface. To Kaiser's shock, she deactivated his restraints. "Stay here or come with me to the bridge," she said, her focus already elsewhere. "Your choice. But if you want to see who's really been pulling your strings, I suggest the bridge." Curiosity overpowered caution. Kaiser followed her through corridors where human crew moved with practiced efficiency despite the attack. No panic, no chaos, just coordinated purpose. On the bridge, tactical displays showed 3 vessels bearing Cerulean markings, but with configurations Kaiser had never seen before. They moved with a precision that no Cerulean captain could achieve, utilizing attack patterns that seemed specifically designed to counter human defensive systems. "Those aren't Cerulean ships," he stated flatly. "No," agreed Vega, assuming command at the central station. "They're hegemony vessels with Cerulean identifiers, coming to eliminate evidence, including you." The battle unfolded with brutal intensity. The disguised cruisers hammered the Nemesis with weapons that seemed specifically calibrated against human shielding technology. Damage reports flowed in steadily. Kaiser watched in fascinated horror as Commander Vega and her crew responded. There was no fear, only focused determination. When shield configurations proved ineffective, they adapted instantly. When conventional weapons failed to penetrate enemy defenses, they improvised alternatives. Recalibrate phase cannons to rotating frequencies, Vega ordered. They're using predictive algorithms based on our standard protocols. A human tactical officer nodded. Implementing random sequence now, Commander. The next volley from the Nemesis struck with devastating effect, bypassing the enemy's adaptive shielding. One of the false cerulean vessels listed heavily, power fluctuations visible along its hull. They miscalculated, Kaiser observed, understanding dawning. They expected standard military responses. Vega glanced at him. The hegemony believes all younger species are predictable, that we're bound by protocols and precedent. Another human officer called out, Commander, they're targeting our life support sectors specifically. Pattern suggests they're trying to force abandonment rather than destruction. They want to capture, not destroy. Kazar realized aloud. They want to recover their proxy and eliminate witnesses without confirming their involvement. Vega's eyes narrowed. Lieutenant Chen, do we still have that experimental torpedo configuration from Galileo Station? Yes, Commander. Untested in combat conditions. Prepare 3. Target their propulsion systems. What followed demonstrated everything Kaiser had begun to fear about humans. The experimental torpedoes bypassed the disguised cruiser's defenses completely, detonating precisely at their engine cores. Within moments, all 3 enemy vessels hung dead in space, their systems offline. How? Kazar couldn't help but ask. A grim smile touched Vega's lips. We've been studying hegemony technology for longer than they realize. Those torpedoes contained adaptive countermeasures specifically designed for their shielding configurations. In the aftermath, human boarding parties secured the disabled vessels. The evidence was irrefutable. Hegemony crews operating ships disguised as cerulean raiders, with orders to eliminate the Nightshade and its captain. In the Nemesis's medical bay, Kazar found himself again under treatment, this time for injuries sustained during the battle when a console had exploded near him. A human doctor treated his wounds with the same care given to the human crew. Why help me? Kazar asked her. I am your enemy. The doctor glanced up briefly. You're my patient, she corrected simply, before continuing her work. Later, Commander Vega returned. The Nemesis was underway again, the captured hegemony vessels under tow. The Alliance is sending diplomatic missions to cerulean space, she informed him. With evidence of the hegemony's manipulation, your people need to understand they've been used as pawns. Kaiser's luminescent patterns had dimmed, a sign of deep contemplation among his kind. They may not believe it, coming from humans. That's why you're going back with them, Vega replied. Stunned, Kaiser stared at her. You're releasing me. With conditions, you'll carry the evidence. You'll testify to what you've witnessed. Her expression hardened slightly. And you'll ensure the cerulean raiders cease operations against human shipping. Why would you trust me to do this? Because you're intelligent enough to recognize truth when confronted with it, and because you care about your species' survival. Kazar couldn't argue with either point. In the days that followed, as they approached the rendezvous point with the diplomatic vessel, he reviewed all the evidence. The pattern of manipulation was undeniable, stretching back years before humans had even entered this sector. On his final day aboard the Nemesis, Kazar recorded a message for transmission to all cerulean commanders. His mandibles clicked nervously as he began speaking, but his resolve strengthened with each word. I am Captain Kaiser of the Cerulean Raiders. What I am about to tell you contradicts everything we have believed about humans and our place in this sector. We have been deceived, not by humans, but by the Silurian hegemony. He detailed the evidence, explained the manipulation, and described what he had witnessed aboard the human vessel. I have seen how humans fight, not with overwhelming force, but with adaptation. Not with rigid hierarchy, but with initiative at all levels. They don't fight as we do, to demonstrate superiority or claim glory. They fight to win, with whatever means necessary. Kazar paused, his compound eyes reflecting the recording light. "We were doomed against humans from the beginning," he continued solemnly. "Not because they are physically stronger or technologically superior, though in many ways they are. We were doomed because we fundamentally misunderstood what humans are. We saw them as soft, emotional, predictable. We were wrong." His voice grew firmer. "I have witnessed humans treating enemy wounded with the same care as their own. I have seen them adapt tactics in seconds when conventional approaches fail. I have watched them improvise solutions that no cerulean commander would conceive. But most dangerously, I have seen them cooperate with perfect unity while simultaneously encouraging individual initiative." Kazar's luminescent patterns pulsed with conviction. The hegemony fears humans because humans represent chaos to their ordered universe. They cannot predict what humans will do, so they sought to eliminate them through proxies, through us. He leaned closer to the recording device. "If the cerulean hierarchy continues this conflict, we face not just defeat, but extinction. Not because humans seek to destroy us, but because we will force them to do so. They will adapt faster than we can respond. They will innovate beyond our capacity to counter. And they will do so not with hatred, but with cold efficiency." The message complete, Kazar transmitted it on encrypted cerulean military channels. Whether his people would heed the warning remained uncertain, but he had fulfilled his obligation to truth. As the diplomatic vessel appeared on long-range sensors, Commander Vega joined him in the observation lounge. "Will they listen?" she asked. "Some will," Kazar replied. "The intelligent ones. Perhaps enough." They stood in silence, watching the approaching ship. "Your species could have subjugated or destroyed mine already," Kazar observed. "Why didn't you?" Vega considered this. Diversity strengthens the universe. Different perspectives, different biologies, different approaches to problems. "We don't want to rule the stars, Captain. We just want our place among them." Kazar's mandibles clicked softly, the cerulean equivalent of a thoughtful nod. "A place you will have, whether others wish it or not." "Yes," she agreed simply. As preparations for his transfer began, Kazar found himself reflecting on everything he had witnessed. The humans were not what his people had believed. They were something far more dangerous, and perhaps, in their strange way, far more admirable. They were survivors who adapted, innovators who improvised, warriors who showed mercy, and explorers who defended their own. They were walking contradictions that somehow functioned in perfect harmony. And in his final message, broadcast to his fleet as he departed the Nemesis, Kazar spoke the truth as he now understood it. "We were doomed against humans from the moment we mistook their complexity for weakness. Learn from my error or share my fate."